fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
The Just Ended series has earned a reputation for producing enthralling racing across a wide assortment of cars and tracks, but it's also unearthed some exceptional young sim racers. And today, as part of a special partnership with the Erebus Motorsport Supercars team, some of Australia's most talented virtual motorsport competitors will vie for their opportunity to make the transition to real-life racing. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lockie Mansell. Welcome to the SimSpeed eSports Network for a special Saturday edition of Just Send It, as we get set for the Erebus Academy Junior eSports competition. Joining me in commentary this afternoon is Ryan Jones. And Ryan, this afternoon we're going to watch sim racers from 13 to 18 years old battling it out at the Summit Point and Okayama racetracks in legend cars and supercars.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So, over the past few days, Erebus Academy have been running time trials on the iRacing service, and from that, the top 40 drivers have been found in each age group from 13 to 15 years old and 16 to 18 years old. Major prizes were awarded for the top 3 per group at the end of the time trials, and the top 40 have been selected by the cumulative lap times at the end of both days. And so we're going to see both groups in action out here. First up is a legend car at Summit Point, and then the supercar out at Okayama after that. 10-minute qualifying, 10-minute race per category. So short, sharp racing, 4 races all up. And there's a lot of exceptional talent in this field. So I'm really looking forward to this one, Lockie.
Certainly is a lot of exceptional talent and a lot of drivers who we're familiar with through their participation in the regular Tuesday night Just Send It events. But as you mentioned there, Ryan, the major prizes have already been awarded based on the cumulative lap times achieved by the drivers in some pre-qualifying sessions that were held on Thursday and Friday night. So congratulations to the winner of the 13 to 15-year-old category, Luke Pink. He scores a day of go-kart training with Sarah Driver Development, which is run by the very experienced and successful go-karter David Sarah. Corey Shepherd, second in that class, gets a 2-hour simulator session with an Erebus Motorsport supercar driver. And Dylan DeBono, third in that category, gets an Erebus Motorsport merchandise pack. In the 16 to 18-year-old category, quite fitting that Cooper Webster, the most successful driver in the history of the Just Send It series. He won that category, and he picks up a day training at Norwell Motorplex, the complex that's been made famous, I beg your pardon, thanks to the Enforcer and the Dude, Paul Morris and Russell Ingle with their TV show. Cooper will be spending a day at Norwell Motorplex turning laps in a Toyota 86. Second position in the 16 to 18-year-old category, another very familiar name from Just Send It, Jackson Suzlin Harlow, and he will score a 2-hour simulator session with an Erebus Motorsport driver. And third place in the 16 to the 18-year age division, Job Stewart, another driver who we know very well from his Just Send It exploits, and he scores an Erebus Motorsport merchandise pack. So Congratulations to the prize winners in each of our age divisions, Ryan. But obviously the formalities are out of the way. Now it's time to have some fun and just send it as we send some very, very talented young sim racers loose in a couple of highly entertaining race scenarios.
Yeah, I think racing can be a lot more serious than we see in the Just Send It series normally, because of course there are prizes up for grabs still in the racing format of our series today. Drivers are able to pick themselves some pretty decent prizes for the top 3 at the end of each race. A mix of trophies, Penrite Racing simulator experiences with team drivers, and Penrite Racing merch packs. And Race Controller also going to hand out a hard charger award, which is going to be given to a competitor out there today as well. So look out for that towards later on in the broadcast too. We've got a few minutes left in practice here before we get into qualifying for the first group of the afternoon, which is the 13 to 15-year-olds.
So just to explain how the race format's going to work this afternoon, we'll be seeing a total of 4 races. So the 13 and the 15-year-olds will race in the legend cars and the supercars, and the 16 to the 18-year-olds will also race in the legend cars and the supercars. The legend cars will be racing at the Summit Point circuit. The supercars will be racing at the very technical Okayama racetrack in Japan. So looking forward to what promises to be some thrilling racing across both of those car and track combinations.
2 wildly different combos, aren't they, as well, which is really going to test the talent of the drivers. The legend car, very twitchy, very hard to drive, and on a relatively technical racetrack as well. A lot of twists and turns towards the back half. Only time to rest down the main straight. Okayama, a much more open racetrack. Lots of long straights, but also lots of technical sections too. And then the supercar, which is much, much bigger. The 2014 iteration of the supercar as well. It's not the current versions we have on iRacing. But it is twitchy as well, but it's also got a whole lot more horsepower under that right foot. And very easy to light the rears up.
Good to see a wide assortment of drivers participating in the Erebus Motorsport Junior eSports competition. Having a look at the driver profiles that have been sent through. As mentioned, the eligibility age range is from 13 to 18 years old, and we have drivers from literally all over the country. We've got a mixture of some very, very accomplished sim racers. We've got some drivers who've had some pretty handsome achievements in real-life motorsport. And then you've got drivers like our 16 to 18 competition winner, Cooper Webster, who's had some pretty impressive accomplishments in both sim racing and real-life motorsport. So really, really good job from the Erebus Motorsport team to have put this program together. And I think this is an example of something that we're going to see more of in the future, Ryan, which is that sim racing is going to become more and more of a platform that we see for drivers to make the progression into real-life motorsport.
100%, and we've already seen it in the past with competitions like GT Academy and things like that. And good to see Supercars teams now in Erebus starting to make that step as well, because there is certainly a lot of talent to be unearthed in iRacing. And as you mentioned, that driver profiles that we've got access to at the moment, a lot of talent on showcase. We've got drivers that compete in Aussie racing cars, Toyota 86. We've got national champions, and we've got a lot of karters from various categories across the country. So the talent's there. They just need to be found, and that is exactly what we're doing here in the Erebus Academy Junior eSports competition. Good news is you're about to get into the action. 5 seconds left here in practice. Qualifying is 10 minutes. Everyone out on the track at once. So it's going to be very important to find yourself some clean air and get a good lap time in, because 10 minutes can go by very, very quickly.
So Luke Pink, who's at the top of the time sheets for the practice session and was also the winner for the competition based on the cumulative lap times, 15 years old, from the go-kart scene, lives on the Gold Coast, has won the Australian Karting Nationals and has already been overseas to represent Australia over in Italy on the go-karting stage. So I think when you look at real life motorsport, Ryan, and you look at the pathways that drivers have to take if they're aspiring to make a career in professional motorsport overseas, with Formula One being the objective, the key thing is that you do need to go overseas, over to Europe, and try and showcase your talents on the European stage as early as you possibly can. So for somebody like Luke Pink, really, really good that he's already had the chance to represent Australia overseas.
Certainly is. And casting over, we got Jackson Johnstone, Victorian Country Series champion in 2019. 2019 karting us up well, state champion in the rookies was Seth Brown out there as well. So plenty of state and national champions from the karting world out there at the moment. So qualifying and drivers out on the track, you can see already how busy it is out there on what is just a 3.1 kilometer racetrack, just 10 turns in length. The main straight takes up a few hundred meters of the racetrack. It's reasonably long, which means if you're very smart and clever here, Lockie, you could put yourself in a good spot to get a big toe down that main straight, but also not get held up for the rest of the lap, and that should really help boost your lap time.
But definitely with these legend cars, because they only produce a modest amount of horsepower, getting a slipstream from the car ahead will definitely give you an advantage, provided you don't get held up through the rest of the lap. There are some interesting undulations around this racetrack as well, so a few elevation changes that the driver's going to have to deal with. We're right on board with Troy Brown at the moment. He's 13 years old from Coffs Harbour. Quite staggering, some of the results that have been achieved by these drivers when you think of just how young they are. They're certainly achieving results far and away beyond what I could imagine achieving when I was 13 years old, that's for sure.
Or even now.
You went there.
I went there. So the same for me, though. Troy Brown, 5th place after his first lap. Now, that is not Troy Brown. That is Seth Brown, running under a different name. Of course, when you use iRacing, you've got to use your real name, don't you, Lockie? And some of these young fellas, some of them aren't even old enough to have a job. And, well, I would imagine, not old enough to have their own credit card as a result. So I believe probably signed up with Dad's account. And he's out there putting in some good times at the moment.
As is Aaron Oliver, who's fastest in the timesheets at the moment. Because this is only a 10-minute session, you don't get a lot of time to bank a clear lap. So the whole process of getting out onto the circuit, generating enough tyre temperature, and trying to get yourself into a position where you can maybe benefit from a slipstream without getting held up through the corners and getting a decent lap time. It's not a lot of time to achieve those objectives. So this is going to be a pretty cutthroat qualifying position, I would imagine. Techstar McCoy now moves to the top of the timesheets on a minute 20.8, playing a 1 minute 21.1 for Dylan DeBono, who sits in second position. Just as a bit of a benchmark, the fastest time that we saw in pre-qualifying for the Legend cars was Luke Pink, who punched out a minute 20.4 in the pre-qualifying session, and we see that Luke Pink has now gone within 0.2 of a second of that lap time, getting down to a minute 20.6.
Yeah, Techstar McCoy runs around the Hyundai XL series, which is a pretty highly regarded category, isn't it? It's where you see a lot of really good talent who don't quite have that money to get up to the really big series. The Hyundai XLs is where they all seem to gather, Lockie, and there's a very big gathering and following around that series, and he's got some podiums in there, so he certainly knows what it takes in those cars. And would you say an XL is closer to a supercar or a legend car? Probably right in the middle, isn't it?
In terms of lap time, definitely a legend car,
yeah.
But in terms of handling characteristics, not really either of them, because the XL's are front-wheel drive, both
Yes,
the legend cars and the supercars rear-wheel drive. And Aaron Oliver, another driver who has also cut his teeth in the XL series, finished in the top 10 in the XL Nationals at Taylor Bend last year, Aaron Oliver. So good to see him as part of the field as well.
35 times have been set. Everyone's put a lap time down so far. What about Brelly Fred? Can he improve on 26th place at the moment? He's got a 122.979 to his name. And as he comes across the line, improves massively to 7th place, the 121.2. Big improvement from Bailey there. He'll be stoked with that. See if he can improve on his next lap as well. Brody Sonter as well. Looks like he's made a mistake on this one. He's a few seconds off the pace, so he's winding up for an attempt here.
Still got about 4.5 minutes left to get a lap time in. Hayden Sell, 13-year-old Queenslander. We ride on board with him in the number 8 car. And let's have a look at Hayden Sell. So he was 30th overall in the pre-qualifying times. We had, as you mentioned there, it's only the top 40 drivers from pre-qualifying that get into the race. And the times were extremely close. So you only had, it was less than 2 seconds separating first and 40th in the pre-qualifying. So it was pretty cutthroat just to get into the top 40.
Certainly was, and these guys have to put a lot of time and effort in to get themselves tuned up and ready to go. Max Christensen, 18th at the moment of that number 6 car. A 1:23.2 for him. That will keep him in 18th place for now, but he's still got 3 minutes. Enough for a couple more laps out there. Corey McFarlane is all out in the weeds and trying to keep it headed generally the right direction. Just about gets it back on the racetrack and keeps going, but he'll have to have another attempt at that. A lot of traffic here for Jack Childs, though.
And interestingly as well, Luke Pink has improved his lap time down to a 1:20.41, which is actually a few hundredths of a second quicker than the best lap time that he achieved in pre-qualifying. So Luke Pink really lighting up the timesheets at the moment, and he's now got an advantage of almost half a second over the rest of the field.
He is doing a stunning job out there at the moment. Ben Holiday is the youngest competitor in the field. He's currently 12 years old. Now, the rules for that, obviously, we say it's 13 to 15. It's your date of, it's your age as of the 31st of December at the end of the year. So that's why he's eligible.
So he's 12, but he turns 13 before
he turns
the end
13,
of the year.
Yeah. And he's doing a very good job up in 14th place, got to say.
I think we've seen in the past, haven't we, that young drivers have got into go-karts at really, really young ages. Like 6 or 7, they start racing karts. I wonder what the minimum age is that people are going to start racing simulators.
Probably about the same age. I mean, mum and dad, they got a simulator at home. They're going to chuck their kid on it and let them loose, aren't they? Can't hurt anybody, so can't hurt themselves, crucially. So, I think that was very close for Kajak. He was aware and alert and dived around him. That might affect his lap time, though. He would have kept in he looks like he kept in the throttle, but that little move off the line may have cost him a couple tenths of a second. Although, it looks like a pretty decent lap. It is a 1:21.597. Will keep him in 18th, but did find an improvement.
Here's Aaron Oliver on board the number 70 Penrite car. Quite appropriate that he's running the Penrite sponsorship, given that they're also the major sponsor of the Erebus Motorsport Supercars team. And as mentioned before, Aaron Oliver made his debut in the XL Series last year after previously racing in go-kart competition.
There's just 40 seconds left on the clock here in qualifying. Harrison Mitchell will come across to complete his lap, seeing if he can improve on a 1:21.825, 22.0, so he doesn't find that improvement that he needs that time. By, unfortunately, still Luke Pink with almost a half a second of margin out at the head of the field over Texstar McCoy, Stephen Tesmelis, Hugh Barter, Dylan DeBono, your top 5.
Callum Pratt moves up into position number 3. And Stephen Tesmelis moving up into 4th position as well. So a couple of drivers improving late in the session. Checkered flag is now out, so the drivers will get to complete the lap that they're on. But Luke Pink, you would have to say, with almost half a second margin over Texstar McCoy, is looking pretty good for pole position.
He certainly is. Callum Pratt still got a lap under his belt to complete here if he can avoid being held up by the car in front. Ben Holiday back in 15th, out in the sand trap, sideways, coming out of the main straight. Spectacular, but lap time out the window, unfortunately for him. Behind Jason Furness at a front row seat to that. And he improved his time, so he kept his foot in it. It wasn't phased at all. Goes up to P25.
It was actually a pretty good save. With these legend cars, the rear end is very twitchy. So if you have a sideways moment like that and you drop a couple of wheels into the grass or the gravel, it's actually quite hard to maintain control of the car without it rotating it all together.
Looks like most of the drivers have completed their laps now. Rafa Gavoni going to be one of the final drivers to put a lap time in this session. Can he find an improvement and put himself up the order? No, he can't. 23 flat, unfortunately. No improvement for him. The number 8 car of Hayden Sell still trying to find something late. 22.351 will keep him back in 30th. The field very tight.
Just watching Lockhart Brownlee coming to the line. Currently scored down in 29th position. Like you say, though, the field very tight. Top 10 cars separated by just under 8/10 of a second. And the winner's circle, that's where you'll be heading if you finished in first position at the end of the race, which is coming up in a couple of moments' time. And here's how they'll line up. It's Luke Pink and Textar McCoy on the front row of the grid. Callum Pratt out of position number 3 ahead of Stephen Sesmelis. And then Will Newell, position number 5 for the young driver from Young in New South Wales. Hugh Barter in position 6. Dylan DeBono and Harrison Sellers in 7th and 8th position. Bailey Frid and Michael Yip completing the top 10.
You got Aaron Oliver and Corey Shepherd off row 6. Harrison Dengate, Jack Childs, 13th and 14th. Ben Holiday and Lachlan Murphy off row 8. Callan Chin, Bo Russell lining up 17th and 18th. Top 20 rounded up by Rafa Gavoni and Harrison Mitchell.
We go back to Marcus Kajak in 21st position. Alex Gardner in 22nd. And then it's Max Christensen ahead of Corey McFarlane. Peter Taylor in 25th position, Jason Furness, and then Dylan Lagarde, Troy Brown, Lockhart Brownlee, and Hayden Sell completing your top 30.
Rest of the field, Ryan Miller, Max Havert, Slade Osmond, Carrie Ardley, Brett Cooper, and Brody Sonti, your 36-car lineup. For our first race of the day as the green flag flies, and we're racing at Summit Point.
We all hold our breath as they head down into turn number 1 on this opening lap, but it's Luke Pink who gets a decisive jump. He'll be on the inside and move through, swing across to take the lead. A bit further back in the pack. Hopefully, everybody can behave themselves and we can get through without too much damage. Looks like all of these young tackers have done a pretty good job so far.
McCoy jumped off the line extremely well, but just lost out down at turn 1, unfortunately. But look, he's still fighting back on Luke Pink. They'll run side by side down into turn 4. This corner's flat out. They're going to get on the brakes and hook it back to the left. And Pink holds them off. Great performance on the brakes as these two battle. The field stays glued to their back bumper with Stephen Tesmelis, Will Newell, and Hugh Barter lined up right behind them.
Critical to get a good exit from turn number 9, which is the right hand leading onto the back straight. We've got Dylan DeBono off the road. So he was inside the top 10, but he's had an off-track excursion, and that pushes him down outside the top 20 because of the fact that the field is so tightly bunched together at this stage. So that's the right hand that I was talking about. It's long and it's sweeping, and you need to get a good exit for the run onto the straight, and this is where it will become slipstream central. And the key thing here for Textar McCoy and Stephen Sesmelis is they kept Luke Pink within slipstreaming range, so they will have the advantage of the toe. Hard under brakes they go into the right-hander at turn number 10. And again, a corner where it's important to get a good exit for the run back onto the main straight.
Yeah, on board with Sesmelis here, looking over what is his right shoulder, or right roll bar even. as he makes his way back towards what is the technical part of the circuit where overtaking is extremely difficult. It's a tough track to overtake on in most cars, a little bit easier when your cars are as small as these. Turn 1, your biggest opportunity at the end of that main straight. But as you can see, a lot of twists and turns back here. If you want to get it done, you got to use the bumper. And Michael Yip of Eclipse Sim Sports, he thought about it there.
Almost light contact there between Michael Yip and Callum Pratt, who was squabbling over positions 7 and 8, and Callum Pratt just slightly slow on the exit, which will allow Yip to draw up alongside him. They'll go side by side. Yip's going to be ideally positioned when they get to the next right-hander to swing through on the inside and pick up that position. Impressed with the driving standards so far. Maybe I shouldn't talk too soon here, Ryan, but all of the drivers are showing really good respect for one another at the moment. And to be honest, I think they can probably set a bit of an example for some of the older drivers who are involved in the iRacing scene.
Yeah, and making it a very easy job for Anton Di Pasquale, who joins us up here in the booth for a moment here. Anton, good to have you with us. You're helping out with race control, but I'm sure casting your eye over some of the drivers in the field who maybe one day might be racing you in supercars.
Yeah, mate. I got sort of employed myself to do the race control side of things, but I'm having to do nothing at the moment, so it's good. That's sort of when all the guys did a really good job that first lap. I was sort of expecting a bit of a tunnel effect at turn 1, but it didn't happen, so it's really good. Good to see them showing a lot of respect for each other and at the same time having really good racing.
Got to be impressed with the level of quality throughout both age groups and the times they've put down over the couple of time trial days we've had, because, well, I think we were discussing earlier, Anton, with me and Lockie, about some of these sim races could very well make the jump from sim racing to motorsport. Do you see that as a viable option for the future?
Yeah, like 100%. Obviously, all the times the young age group and the older age group did was really good. Me and Brody and Will benchmarked a few times just to see where it's at, and they all were, as fast, if not faster than us. So, 100% there's a big correlation between the two. We're one of the only sports that sort of can do that in a not competing fashion online and stuff like that. So, there's definitely something there. Obviously, it's a hard thing to translate, but yeah, you see most of these good kids at this age are doing go-karting and sim racing and all these things. So I think once they get into the real world thing, they'll fast track a bit more and having a bit of experience on here for sure.
Hey Anton, Lockie Mansell here, mate. One of the things that I've discovered in the little bit of sim racing that I've done is that while you obviously don't get the seat of the pants feel through a simulator like you would in a real life race car, the whole mental and psychological approach to the way that you go sim racing compared to real life racing is actually very similar. How valuable a tool do you think sim racing is for drivers to mentally prepare themselves for real life motorsport competition?
Yeah, it's perfect. You can do all sorts of things, and then it's also probably a little bit harder to concentrate on a sim than it is in the real thing, because you haven't got the, you don't think you're on fast, you're not in a dangerous position, so you generally lose concentration a bit easier. So focusing on that is actually, it's a pretty big tool. So I use it a lot, and I know a lot of drivers, all F1 teams have their own sims and do heaps of training on it. So it must work if the best people in the world are using it.
You've obviously been closely following this Erebus Motorsport Junior Academy competition. Any particular drivers who've impressed you or stood out from what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on all the sessions. And it's funny, we race a lot of these kids. You see their names in all the lobbies. They're on here most of the days, so it's good to see them taking part in our little academy thing. But yeah, obviously Luke leading at the moment's been doing pretty good. He's sort of been the fastest in both of his sessions, so he's obviously doing really well. But all the kids are doing good. They're all showing a lot of respect for each other, getting out of each other's way and not crashing. So it's good to see that. It's probably something us older guys can take a little note on.
Bit of an unfortunate moment there for Harrison Dengate, unfortunately, and he's found his way into the tyre barrier. But also, Anton, we've heard announced today that Supercars, the resumption of play has been confirmed for Sydney Motorsport Park at the end of June. Obviously, you are quite the gun on the sim and you do enjoy your sim racing, but I bet you can't wait to get back into the supercar in real life.
Yeah. it'd be awesome. Obviously, we've been able to do what we're doing now, but doing the real things heaps better. And we've all been waiting out for the time to get back in, so at least we know when it is now, so we can look forward to it and get back into it, and hopefully go really well. We've been going good in the E-Series stuff, so hopefully some of that translates over.
Good stuff, Anton. We'll let you get back to your duties in race control. There he is, Anton De Pasquale from the Penrite Erebus Motorsports Supercars team, who is also our race director / driving standards observer for these races. And some terrific battles happening in the mid-pack at the moment, Ryan.
Yeah, I think his job got a bit more busy while he was up here chatting to us. There was a few incidents out there, including Stephen says Mellison, Bailey, Fred coming into contact, and Fred now, as a result, back here in this little group. We've got a replay of an incident that happened to Harrison Dengate, which is the 3-car right there. There's Fred's smoke after he spun and he rejoins just in front of them. And then he came into contact on the run through turn 4. Fred just tags the left rear and around he goes into the fence. And unfortunately ends up facing the wrong way.
That'll be one for Anton De Pasquale to adjudicate on. To be honest, I reckon that was probably a bit of a racing incident, that one. Not sure that you could really apportion too much blame one way or the other. Here's a good battle between a couple of great young go-karting talents. We've got Will Newell battling it out with young Hugh Barter. Hugh Barter, one of the recent signings to the Evolution Racing team. And Will Newell, one of many racing drivers from the New South Wales regional town of Young, as we see Hugh Barter going for a big lunge to the outside, not quite able to make the move through there. But when you look at the number of successful racing drivers who've hailed from Young, you've got Ian and Hugh McAllister, who we know have both had a lot of success in the TA2 category. John McCorkindale, who we've seen achieving great results in Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge and the Kumo Super 3 Series. And more recently, Tom Sargent, who's a round winner in the Australian Formula Ford Championship. So Young doesn't have a massive population, Ryan, but it certainly punches above its weight when it comes to the number of racing drivers per capita.
Certainly does. And Hugh Barter, though, he wants to get on by Will Newell, who has a technical difficulty. And Barter tries to get out of the way, which he does. Barter, qualified third at the World Titles, competes in KA2 in the Australian Kart Championship. So that's what he does. And Will Newell, 6th in the Australian Kart Championship as well. So these two both probably know each other in real life from running around the country doing that. And they're putting on a great little show here. A lot of respect being shown as Newell covers the inside. Barter thought about making a juke down to the left-hand side of the racetrack, thought better of it. Gives him a shove out of the corner. Now he gets the run. Pulls to what will be the outside for turn at number 4. But it'll become the inside if he can keep the car there. Newell tries to cover him off. 2 tyres on the grass. Skates it in. Sideways. Now to control it. Around he goes. And he collects the 44 as well.
Oh dear, that's very unfortunate for Michael Yip there, because he was very much the innocent victim. But what a performance this has been from Luke Pink. He notched up the overall competition win with the best cumulative lap time over the last couple of days, and he's going to back that up with a sensational and comprehensive victory in the race as well for the Legend cars. Very well done to Luke Pink. 4.5 seconds, the final margin back to Techstar McCoy. So great performance there for Luke Pink, and his prize for picking up the race win, a $250 voucher thanks to Petter's suspension. Second place, Techstar McCoy. He gets the 2-hour coaching session with an Erebus Motorsport driver on the simulator. And third place, which ultimately does go the way of Will Newell, he picks up a Penrite Racing merchandise pack for his effort. So some great prizes there coming the way of our top 3 finishers.
There was an almighty battle for P5 coming to the line. Look at the margin on your screen there between them. Just a few hundredths of a second. That is your top 10 at the end of our first race of the day. The juniors, the 13 to 15-year-olds at Summit Point. Luke Pink coming out on top from McCoy in second. Will Newell third. And you see the rest of the results there, Lockie.
Yeah, Lachlan Murphy home in 11th position ahead of Ben Holiday, back then to Peter Taylor. Stephen says Mellis back to 14th position. Michael Yip unfortunately getting spun all the way down to 15th position as a result of that collision with Hugh Barter on the final lap. And then it was Dylan DeBono ahead of Lockhart Brownlee, Jason Furness, Marcus Kajak, and Dylan Lagarde rounding out our top 20.
Everyone finishing on the lead lap in the top 30. Bo Russell, Kalen Chin, Hayden Sell, Max Savert, Corey McFarlane, Ryan Mueller, Rafa Gavoni, Harrison Mitchell, Alex Gardner, Harrison Dengay, and then the field was rounded out by your other 6 drivers.
Slade Osmond, yep. Brody Sonton, back to Troy Brown, Max Christensen, Brett Cooper, Kay Arnley, and then the Erebus Motorsport entry there that you see in position number 37, that would have been Anton De Pasquale, logging into the session to be race control and driving standards. So that completes the first race of the Erebus eSports Junior Academy competition. You're watching it here on the SimSpeed TV network. A break and back with more very shortly.
Hey guys, Anton here. I'm in the Legends Coupe car at Summit Point for the Junior Erebus eSport program. So it's a really cool car. Big braking into turn 1. You're looking for about the 2 cones. Hold the brake as long as you can get it, and once it's turned straight onto the gas, you want to get a big exit. These things, low power, momentum and exit speed is really crucial. Next left here, down 1 gear, upper close against the curb, all the way out to the dirt, and heading yourself into the next sort of tight section, coming after this flat right-hander. You can brake from about the middle of the road, try and get to the apex in 2nd gear, and it gets really tight through here before a couple fast S's. Little short shift to get around this right-hander, and then you're trying to go flat through here. Not quite there. Almost flat, right out to the grass. Thing gets pretty tail happy in the rear. Super cool car. And last corner, no downshift, just little brake. Trying to get to the gas as quick as you can. Use all the exit road and bring it home for hopefully a good lap time.
So we're out here today at Todd Road Karting Complex for our final preparations before the Las Vegas Super Nationals, where we've got young drivers Bradley Majman, William Kalesia and Riley Harrison competing. So Las Vegas Super Nationals is the biggest karting race in the world. Over 500 drivers are going to be competing at the Rio Casino in a car park. Some of the drivers in the past who have competed are Michael Schumacher and Australia's Will Power. So with our team of drivers, we're going to be hoping for a top 10 result. There's going to be 40 drivers competing in the Micro Swift class they'll be competing in. It's a new experience for these kids, first time racing overseas and also in a casino car park and having the Las Vegas Strip right next to them as well. Our team of drivers is going to be aged between 7 and 10 years of age, so it's in the youngest class they're going to be competing in.
I raced around Australia, not just Victoria, but did a lot of races. There's a lot of competitive drivers, and we've been making a lot of points and wins and podiums.
It's really good because we can have Erebus and then have Jaden down at the track helping the data, and then Dave doing the setup for us and getting driver tips, and then also being able to go into the factory with doing all the simulated stuff has been really cool. And we've gone all around the country doing the AKC races. It's really good to travel, have really good times at the track and share our experiences together. Yeah, looking forward to Vegas, obviously going on the new tyres, new kart, new engine. It will be a good experience. We've done a lot of driving lately and we've got quicker. My racecraft's got a lot better, so hopefully we'll be up the top in the top 5.
Welcome back, everybody. You are virtually trackside at Summit Point for the Erebus Academy Junior eSports competition in conjunction with the Just Centre. You're watching it on the SimSpeed TV network, where Ryan Jones and Lockie Mansell are in the commentary box talking you through the action, with Jay Kennedy running the cameras for us behind the scenes. We've already had the first race of the afternoon, which was the legend car race for the 13 to 15-year-old drivers, taken out in comprehensive style by Luke Pink. Not too far away, the second race on the program, which is the 16 to 18-year-old race, also in the legend cars at the Summit Point circuit. And as I say, good afternoon to Ryan. Once again, Ryan, we have got some superstar names in this field, including drivers who've had a lot of success in the Tuesday night Just Send It races.
Yeah, so Jackson Susan Harlow jumps out at us immediately. Job Stewart. Cooper Webster was fastest at the end of the time trials for this age group. Unfortunately, he has some prior commitments and can't quite make the racing action today. But with us up here now, joining us is Paul, who is in charge, I believe, of the Erebus Academy. And thank you for joining us. And you've got to be pleased with the response to the turnout and the talent you've seen.
Yeah, Ryan, it's been fantastic. So, the Academy is something that we hold very dear at Erebus, and we like to give these guys an opportunity to show their skills. And one thing that we have seen over the last couple of days is the skills are extremely high across both age groups.
They certainly are, and through that, I guess now you've got a really good chance to get some of these guys who perform really well and give them some opportunities. A test day with Dave Sarah Motors driver development. You've got a day at Norwell Motorplex as well, and you'll see them perform in real life. And I asked the same question to Anton. I'll ask it to you, especially being in charge of Erebus Academy, because I truly believe that this is a route for some people.
Yeah, I think we see, one of the things that has held most of us back in our motorsport careers is the ability to afford to go motor racing.
Yes.
What we've seen with the sim world now, while of course not a small investment if you've seen some of the rigs that are out there, the investment of having to travel with parents working and those sort of things, it's very prohibitive. I think what we see with sim racing is a great opportunity for these young kids to hone their skills. And I heard the chat with Anton. The great thing the sim is good for is mind management and muscle memory. We get to do the same things on a sim as we do in a race car. So, and what we've seen with the Academy days that we've run at Norwell and also with Dave Sarah already is they can jump pretty much out of the sim and be very, very close and be very coachable as they come through.
Give us an idea, Paul, of exactly your role with the Erebus Motorsport Academy and some of the other activities that you're involved in to help with the development of young drivers.
So my role at Erebus is actually the commercial manager, and I have a long history in motorsport. And when I joined the team, Barry asked me if I'd like to head up the Academy program. Coming through karts as a 13, 14-year-old and being one of the ones that didn't quite have the budget to make it but had a bit of talent, to be able to give back to the sport is very, very important. We have a conversation with a lot of the parents who sort of get to the end of their karting career and they're not really sure what to do. So what we've done at Erebus is we've created a program called Creating Pathways that will basically guide the guys through. So we give them media training, we give them nutritional and also fitness training so they can actually start to apply their trade to become a professional motorsport driver. So that's been great. I think after the success of this one, we'll continue to do some sim competitions through the year as well. So it's all looking good from that point of view.
Obviously, you've forged the relationship with the Norwell Motorplex as well, with Paul Morris and his very capable lineup of driver instructors. How valuable has that relationship been so far?
Oh, massively valuable, I think. Paul is outstanding. I mean, I trained with Paul as a 21-year-old as well, so I know firsthand, the benefits of being involved. But just being able to take these kids to a private facility in safe environments and be able to put them in the car with instructors like Anton and Brody, it's absolutely invaluable. And if you want to make the step from karts to cars, Norwell Motorplex has driver programs, which is like anything you do with TAFE. You go through modules as they build you up to be a better and better driver. So that's been fantastic. Same with Sarah driver development as well. He's doing some great kids with that, younger generations from 8 to 13 as well. So it's really good.
So looking at the bigger picture with Erebus Motorsport, is the overall objective here to try and funnel some of the better performing drivers in the academy so that they can step up into national motorsport competition, maybe into something like the Toyota 86 series, and then from there move up into Supercars development series, and then ultimately into the main game?
Definitely, we've actually got with that Creating Pathways program, we've sort of highlighted the karting through to 86. And we, of course, have a great relationship with Image Racing. So we now have that Kumo V8 or Super 3 option available for young drivers, and then all the way into Super 2. You can see with Will Brown, he's come through the Academy program and he'll be full-time on the grid next year. And this is a great resource for us. I mean, we're always looking for the next big thing to come through from karts and talented kids, and this gives us a platform to be able to gauge that. So there's a clear path now inside Erebus with the academy, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, a lot of the drivers who are excelling on the sim, they've also had some pretty impressive accomplishments in real-life motorsport. So, we talk about someone like Cooper Webster, who obviously took out the 16 to 18-year-old age division with the cumulative lap times earlier in the week. He's had some really good results in the Victorian XL Racing Series. So he's an example of a driver who's performing well in both the online and the real world.
Yeah, and that's you look up and down the grid at this point in time, and we put some questions out to kids in the time trial sessions. What are you racing? A lot of kids are just doing sim stuff, but most of the majority of the people are racing karts. We have a couple of good young guys that we're looking at this point in time that have got themselves 86s and have done well in the competition. But I'm just astounded by the high level of competition that we've had. To have Brody and Anton jump in, who worked on the setups for these cars, and these guys, in some cases, being quicker than them. I've got great respect for those two guys as racing car drivers, and to see kids, under 18 producing those same performances is just blows me away.
Yeah, well, I think just finally, Paul, we need to say well done to you and the Erebus Motorsport organisation, because I think increasingly we are going to see sim racing becoming recognised as more and more of a legitimate pathway into real-life motorsport. So well done to you and everybody else there at Erebus Motorsport for taking the initiative.
Thanks for that, guys. And we'd like to thank Just Send It and SimSpeed too for jumping on board with us. And of course, Petter Suspension and Brakes, Norwell Motorplex and SDD. And I'm sure we'll be back on your screens very, very soon with some interesting stuff for the kids.
Look forward to it. There he is, Paul Thompson, Commercial Manager at Erebus Motorsport. We're watching qualifying for the 16 to the 18-year-olds in the Legend cars, and it is super tight at the top at the moment, Ryan. 4 thousandths of a second separating Jackson Suzel and Harlow from Blake Purdy.
Three names that are very familiar up at the front of that. JSH is we've sort of universally started calling him in iRacing circles, and then Purdy, Stewart, Billy Fraser back there in fourth. Someone that's popped up very recently on iRacing through other series, through New Zealand and stuff. He's actually the current leader of the New Zealand Formula Ford Championship, so he has got some big real-life mojo underneath him, and he does a very good job on the sim, so watch out for him in this one as well. Matt McCutcheon in a similar boat from New Zealand, a lot of real-life experience, doing pretty well in the sim world, and Jackson Johnstone not doing quite so well on that lap. Just tagged the fence as Stewart.
Yep, Job Stewart goes to the top, a minute 20.4. And Jackson Suzlin Harlow will not be able to respond. And Blake Purdy, here he comes at the moment, not quite sure that he's going to be able to improve either. So a cracking final lap there for Job Stewart is going to see him snatch pole position in the very dying stages of the session. Here comes Miles Burgess.
Yep. Could improve on his final. No, he does. Improves 23rd, so good improvement on the final lap, in fact, from him. Brady Carr, a 121.578. Will keep him in 16th place. Matt McCutcheon in 6th at the moment. Can he find an improvement and jump inside of the top 5? So 120.8. And not an improvement, unfortunately, for him, as Jack Boyd props up to 5th.
Jack Boyd, a driver who we've seen a fair bit of in the sim racing scene in recent times as well. He's been running in the Circuit XL A-Series. And we've seen that Jack Boyd's had some pretty good results in karts as well. So not too much of a surprise to see him up near the pointy end. And in fact, Jack Boyd is going to be running in the Aussie Racing Car Series as well. But there is Job Stewart, the Mount Gambier driver who takes pole position for the 16 to 18-year-old division for the Legend Cars. He'll line up on position number 1. Jackson Suzlin Harlow alongside him on the front row of the grid. Blake Purdy starts out of 3rd position ahead of Billy Fraser. And then it's Jack Boyd back to Cooper Johnston, Matt McCutcheon in 7th, Cody Burchin, the Australian Formula Ford Championship race winner in 8th position, Joel Johnson in 9th, Jaden Wanzek rounding out our top 10.
Bailey Sweeney, who is actually an Erebus Academy driver already, competing in Toyota 86 in real life, starts from 11th. Sean Wright in 12th, Reese Cohen and Ruben Goodall starting off row 7. Callum Watson and Brady Carr off row number 8. Emerson Harvey and Reef McCarthy from 17th and 18th. Your top 20 is rounded out by Luke Mitchinson and Mario Vartanian.
Back to Tane Venables out of 21st. Jada Dixon in position 22. Kyle Evans in 23rd spot ahead of Miles Burgess. Zane Hills back to Damon Harper. Lachlan Manaith, another Australian Formula Ford Championship round winner in 27th position, back to Bradley Vaughan. Jackson Griffith and Jackson Johnston in 30th position.
Your field will be rounded out by Jeff Calvert, Tyson
It's actually Zach Calvert, but yes, continue.
Aidan Brand and Thomas Schwerkolt. There 34 cars lining up for this one in the 16 to 18 age group. A field filled with names from the Just Send It series and sim racing world.
So just on the Calvert entry, so Jeff Calvert, who's actually the treasurer of the Benalla Auto Club, it's his son, Zach Calvert, who will be driving that car. Good job from him to qualify inside the top 40 and earn himself a spot in this race as we get ourselves set for a race start. Once again, it's a super short sprint race, 10 minutes the distance, and all of our cars just about gridded up and ready to go.
That big gaping hole, that was going to be filled by Blake Purdy then, and we'll get ready to go green.
Green flag, lights out and away we go. Excellent jump from our pole seater Job Stewart. Bit of a sluggish start from Jackson Suzlin Harlow off the front row of the grid, and a really good start as well from Blake Purdy, who's going to be right on the tail of Job Stewart as they head down into turn number 1 and pulls to the outside. Can't go the long way around though, but Suzlin Harlow gets slotted back into 3rd position with not the best getaway. Elsewhere in the field, looking fairly well behaved at this stage, but you can see that Jackson Suzlin Harlow is under some pressure from Billy Fraser and also Jack Boyd having lost, and the rest of the field as well. So not one of the better starts that we've seen from JSH. And he's now got his mirrors filled with a freight train of angry legend cars.
That's the view from his back bumper. That's Billy Fraser lined up behind Behind Fraser is Cody Bircher, Matt McCutcheon as well. Bircher, McCutcheon, and Fraser could put themselves in a very good position here if they bump draft down this main straight. They could slingshot by Harlow, but I don't think that's going to happen because Jack Boyd has got to run to the inside of Fraser, try to take the air away from the rear end of that car to side draft him a bit. It's not quite working on these legend cars, but he's got the overlap he needs. And down on the brakes for turn number 1 on the inside of the racetrack, Jack Boyd, supreme on the brakes, but trying to fight back was Fraser on the outside. It didn't quite work out. Look out for Cody Bircher to get in here now.
We know that Cody Bircher's quick because he's had some really, really good results on the sim in recent times, and he'll go side by side with Fraser as they try and recapture that position from Boyd. Just behind them, the New Zealander Matt McCutcheon in 7th position.
Bircher was moving all over the track, trying to cover off the advances from McCutcheon behind, down into turn 4. Did a good job of it. He's right on board with Purdy, tucked right up behind Job Stewart for 2nd place. The lead. Purdy is in 2nd. You see the leaderboard, Tyson Broad showing as a lead. That's because he had to take a tow back to pit lane. So that'll shake out in a second. This is for your race lead here, Lockie. Purdy all over the back of Job Stewart.
And let's not forget that Blake Purdy has real-life experience in Aussie racing cars, in the miniature race car series, and in terms of their mechanical characteristics, they're very similar to legend cars. Lightweight, motorcycle engine, short wheelbase, narrow track, very, very similar handling characteristics, and a slightly wide moment from Job Stewart. He skated it in on the rear brakes. That's going to give Blake Purdy the invitation to come ranging up on the inside. Job Stewart just manages to hold on to the lead.
He was very fortunate. He had the inside line, so Purdy didn't pursue it quite as much as he might have if it was another corner approaching as behind them, side by side. That's a little bit dicey into turn number 4. They were almost 3 wide for a second as they go through the corner and turned around as number 17 on the outside of the racetrack. That's Billy Fraser who comes unstuck.
Oh, and unfortunately, with him being stuck in an awkward position there's another car that's collected him in that corner, but he was side by side there with Cody Birch, and there wasn't quite room for the two of them. It was only fairly light contact, and there definitely wouldn't have been any malice intended in that one, but unfortunately, it's Fraser who's ended up coming off 2nd best. We're right on board with Blake Purdy, who continues to apply the pressure to our race leader, Job Stewart. He gets a really good tow down at the straight. It's going to be good enough for him to pull out. The other thing as well is while these two are battling, Jackson Suzel and Harlow is slowly reeling them in. Here comes the move for the lead. Up the inside goes Blake Purdy. Job Stewart trying to hang tough on the outside. And watch out for Suzel and Harlow because he's lurking there in the background. He set the fastest lap of the race last time around, and he's rapidly railing in our 2 race leaders. But it is Blake Purdy who has successfully completed that move and now holds position 1. But for how long? Because he got a bit wide there coming out of the left-hander, dropped a couple of wheels into the dust, and that's going to give Job Stewart an opportunity to recapture the position as Stewart goes to the inside, but he'll be on the wrong side of the road for the next right-hander. And with Suzel and Harlow catching these two, it's now genuinely a 3-way battle for the lead of the race. We have already reached the halfway point. It just goes to show that the time flies when you're having fun.
It certainly does. It's a very short race as well. So that purple lap last time by from Harlow was 3/10 quicker than Stewart and Purdy, who are battling. And Stewart might be able to come back at Purdy with a good exit out of the final corner and the slipstream down this main straight. On board with Harlow as he gets the double toe down towards turn number 1. Purdy's got a bit of a margin on Stewart. He's not close enough to make that move. Stewart shows a nose, but he can't quite get up the inside as Harlow ranges up to the back bumper on the brakes, but not quite there. The top 3 covered by 0.4 of a second now with 4 minutes remaining.
And they've left the rest of the field behind, haven't they? It's a big gap then back to the next group of cars, which is headed by Cody Bircher, who sits in position 4, having managed to get ahead of Jack Boyd. I reckon watch out for Jackson Suzel and Harlow now. We know just how good he is just how versatile he is as well at adapting between all different types of cars. And he will be putting the pressure on. Can Job Stewart hold on to second position? Can Blake Purdy pull away? Will we see some more changes of position before we get to the end of this race?
I'd almost put money on it. All it takes is one tiny mistake from Purdy to come under all sorts of pressure from Job Stewart. And in these cars, it's very easy to make those tiny mistakes as they twitch their way through the corners and out onto the main straight. This is the most crucial corner of the lap because it precedes the biggest overtaking opportunity on the circuit. And they were so even through there. All of them absolutely on the limit. Cannot possibly go any faster through there. And as a result, they stay exactly even with each other down the main straight towards turn number 1. Harlow shows a nose. He goes for the move. Stewart tried to have a look at Purdy. They make contact and Harlow slides. He catches it. Stewart loses a bunch of time. Purdy is going to try to run away as they battle behind.
That was a big send, wasn't it, from Jackson Suzlin Harlow. He threw it in there, braked at the last minute, but in the end wasn't quite able to get the car slowed down enough and exceeded the limit of adhesion as he went to tip it into that corner. Good driving to maintain control of the car, but he has just lost a bit of time. Look at how congested it is here in the mid-pack with drivers battling over position, a bit like what we saw in the 13 to the 15-year-old age group race. And around goes the number 16 car.
And Sweeney. So the 16 of Joel Johnston turned around by Bailey Sweeney, who in fact got turned himself in the aftermath of that. Johnson was pressuring Johnston for 7th place. Checked up middle of the corner. Sweeney gets into him, and as he tries to avoid, just got tagged by the 22 of Reese Cohen on those way by.
I don't think there was quite enough room there for Bailey Sweeney to get down the inside there. Again, don't think there was anything intentional in that one, but it was just Bailey Sweeney going for a gap that maybe only half existed. Minute and 40 seconds to go, and Blake Purdy continues to lead ahead of Job Stewart. Jackson Suzlin Harlow, after that mistake that we saw on the previous lap, has just fallen off the back of our two race leaders slightly. Here's a move. That's Kyle Evans getting up the inside of Zane Hills. That's a change in position 12.
Hills didn't let him go easily. Tucks right back up to that bumper. Gives him a shot. Down out of turn number 1 towards turn 2. Great shot there as they ride over the camera. Someone goes completely wide of the camera and out to the sand trap. And still on the grass. And keeps it going. Ruben Goodall now going to come under pressure from the 37 who sweeps around the outside. And on the brakes, gets it done. That was Sam Christensen taking advantage of a very good opportunity. After starting last, he has flown through the field. But here comes Goodall fighting back.
So Sam Christensen, who started last, may be in contention for that hard charger award that we talked about, or as we like to call it in Just Send It, the best postman award for the driver who makes up the most positions. And Jada Dixon's had an incident, and Jack Johnston off the road as well. He was running in the top 10 at the time. As we turn our attention back to our race leaders who are on their final lap, Blake Purdy by 0.6 of a second ahead of Job Stewart. Battles just on the fringe of the top 10 have heated up as Emerson Harvey gets down the inside of Reese Cohen. That's a change in position 8.
Harvey should probably be safe now as a result. There's not many overtaking spots left on this track after turn 1. Down here at turn 4, potentially. You've got to be an extremely brave man to pull it off. And you've got to be really close to even think about making it work as well. Blake Purdy's got a half a second of margin as he makes his way into the final sector on the racetrack over Job Stewart in second. And Blake Purdy, after starting third, putting on a very good show.
Well, he took out the opening round of the miniature race car series at Winton Motor Raceway behind the wheel of his Aussie racing car. That was back in March. Seems a long time ago now. Hasn't done any real-life racing since then, like everybody else, but he is going to reign supreme in the virtual world today. It's Blake Purdy who takes out the legend car race for the 16 to the 18-year-olds in the Erebus Academy Junior eSports competition here at the Summit Point Raceway. And just like the younger age division, he will pick up a great prize in the form of a $250 Petter's suspension voucher as a result of that victory. Second place goes the way of Job Stewart. He'll pick up a 2-hour simulator session with an Erebus Motorsport driver. In third place, Jackson Suslan Harlow. He scores a Penrite merchandise pack for coming home on the podium.
There's still another 2 races to come in the Supercar at Okayama. Before we do that, we'll have a look at your results. Was Purdy won by half a second back to Stewart in the end, with Harlow third. Bircher, Boyd, your top 5. Matt McCutcheon, Cooper Johnston, Emerson Harvey, and Reese Cohen and Jaden Wanzak rounded out your top 10.
Mario Vartanian in 11th position ahead of Kyle Evans, back then to Zane Hills and Luke Mitchinson, back to Miles Burgess, Ruben Goodall, Tane Venables, Sam Christensen, Sean Wright, and Callum Watson in 20th position.
21st went the way of Damon Harper, with Bailey Sweeney back in 22nd after getting turned around, along with Joel Johnson in 23rd, Lachlan Manif and Reeve McCarthy, 24th and 25th, Jackson Griffith, Aidan Brand, Jeff Calvert, Billy Fraser, and Jackson Johnstone were your top 30.
And rounding out the cars outside the top 30, Tyson Broad in position 31, Brady Carr in position 32, Thomas Schwerkolt, who I believe is the son of Charlie Schwerkolt from Team 18, in 33rd position ahead of Jada Dixon, and then Bradley Vaughan in position 35. So that's our Legend Car action done and dusted. There is Blake Birdie doing some celebratory burnouts to celebrate winning the Legend Cars race. But next we'll jump into some more powerful machinery in the form of supercars, and we head to Japan, to the Okayama circuit. Supercars coming out onto the racetrack very shortly. You are watching the Erebus Academy Junior E-Series competition. You're watching it on the SimSpeed TV network.
Hey guys, Anton here. We're in the VF Supercar. We're at Okayama, and I'm going to take you for a lap. So we're braking about the 100 meters into turn 1. Braking as late as you can, getting it close to that curb. Easy on the gas, using all the road. Then holding third here, a little bit of turning oversteer. Run it right out to the dirt. Up through the gears for this little S-bend. And then we're trying to get a big exit out of here. So we're braking about just after that first board. In tight. And then easing on the gas. Easing on the gas. And getting a big run out. This is a long straight heading to a big passing zone. Up to the gears. We're looking for somewhere in between these boards here. About the 150. And in the second. Make the curb. Nice and tight section through here. Tight left. Throw it in there. All the way out on the exit curb. Getting through here. In hard. Going down a couple gears for this next left, followed by the right, so be careful not to overshoot one of these, as they sort of help each other. Nice and tight through here, easing on the gas, getting a good run out. A little bit of a right kink off the gas, up on the curb, and then last corner, stay in third gear, using all the exit road, and bringing it to the line. That's a lap for me at Okayama.
Barry Ryan invited me up here to do a bit of talent scouting with this whole Erebus Academy that they got going on here today. Some of the young guys for 15, 16 years old, it's pretty impressive to see where they're at.
Hi, I'm Billy Fraser, I'm 16 years old and race Formula Ford in New Zealand.
Hi, I'm Harry Gray, I'm from Sydney Rouse Hill. I'm currently racing New South Wales production touring cars in a Toyota 86.
Hey, my name's Bailey Sweeney, I'm 16 from New South Wales and I'm currently racing go-karts.
Hello, my name's Job Stewart, I'm 15 years old and I'm from Mount Gambier in South Australia. Currently racing KF3 Senior in go-karts.
I'm Cam Saxby, I'm 16 years of age, I race Speedway and I'm from Home Hill, Queensland.
Josh Matthews, 24, even though I don't look like it, from WA, West Australia, Margaret River. I'm currently racing the State Championship in Formula Ford.
My name's Brock Payne, I've just turned 18 from Gold Coast, Queensland, and we are racing Improved Production Australia. Hi, my name's Liam Hyde. I'm 16 years old, live on the Gold Coast, race XLs.
Hi, my name is Jane Wantek. I am 15 years old from SA and I race in the Circuit XL Series, the State Series, and SA with Simon Wills.
Hi, I'm Reece McCarthy. I'm from Victoria and I race Formula V.
Great to have your company here on the SimSpeed TV network, where we have headed across the ocean to Japan, to the Okayama circuit, and we've swapped into some supercars. Right now, we are gearing up for the second race for the 13 to the 15-year-old age group here in the Erebus Academy Junior eSports competition. Lachlan Mansell and Ryan Jones remaining in the commentary box with you. Great to have your company right around the world, wherever you are tuning in. And I'll tell you what, bit of a transition for the drivers have to make now, jumping out of the legend cars, which have obviously got quite darty, sharp handling, relatively modest horsepower, into the raw, brute performance of supercars.
The 2014 iteration of these cars, so the Holden VF Commodore and the Ford FG Falcon, 2014 are those cars in iRacing, but they're only racing the Holden Commodore today because, of course, that is what Erebus Motorsport use in the supercars competition.
Well, it'll be the ZB Commodore, sorry, not the ZB, the VF Commodore as well. So it'll be the car that is currently used by Erebus Motorsport.
Super 2.
In the Super 2 series, which obviously it's Image Racing who runs Erebus Motorsport's program in the Super 2 series, where their current drivers are Will Brown and Jordan Boys. So here we are at the Okayama circuit, and this will be an interesting circuit for these supercars because it's a very, very technical racetrack with only really the one long straight, which is the back straight, but apart from that, the rest of the corners on the racetrack are fairly slow. And just like the Summit Point circuit, there are some undulations and elevation changes as well.
Main straight's pretty decently long as well. Should be a good toe and a slipstream down both straights here at Okayama on both ends of the circuit. But lap times at about 1:34 for these drivers at the moment of the early laps here in the qualifying. Going to be really crucial. That corner there, turn 4. It's a long, sweeping right-hander that also hits up the hill a bit as you exit the corner too, but it proceeds along the straight on the circuit. Get it wrong, you're going to lose a bucket load of time and cost yourself a bunch of spots, especially in the early laps.
It's a hard corner to get right because it just seems to go for so long, and the trick with that corner is you need to try and hug the apex for longer than what you think. If you drift out too wide too early, the road actually falls off camber on the exit, and you have to get off the throttle, otherwise you just go understeering straight off the racetrack. Speaking of understeer, a bit of understeer there for the car that was just in front of Erin Oliver heading into the braking point at turn number 8. It's always the challenge to try and get the car stopped and turned.
Luke Pink currently sits on top of the timesheets again. The 1:33.597 is margin this time, just under 0.2 of a second back to Holiday. And then it's half a second back to Erin Oliver, who immediately knocks that off by about 3 seconds, which is eclipsed by Corey Shepherd. So the time starts to tumble as tyres come to temperature, which is a talking point that wasn't quite as big in the legend cars, but it certainly is here, Lockie.
Yeah, the tyres in the supercars are a lot more temperature sensitive. The legend car tyres, you do still need to get them up to temperature, and the cars can be a bit unstable on cold tyres, but nowhere near as much as supercars. And because we've only got 10-minute qualifying sessions and 10-minute races, tyre degradation's not going to be a massive issue, I wouldn't think. It'll be driving pretty hard all the way through. You wouldn't have to be thinking too much about time management as such.
certainly, but especially launching off the line in the race, your tyres are going to be stone cold as well, so that's going to be extremely dicey on the opening lap too. So a lot to consider for them out there in these big beasts of the virtual race car. Luke Pink's fallen back to 24th now, but he's going to get in a lap time here that will definitely be an improvement. But is it improvement enough to put him at the top? It is. It's 29.370. Goes quickest by about a tenth of a second.
In contrast to what we saw from the Legend cars at Summit Point, everybody in the supercars seems to be wanting to get as much clear track as possible. The reason being that the benefit that you get from the slipstream in the supercars, particularly at this racetrack, is nowhere near as much as what it is in the Legend cars. Here's Harrison Dengate, loving the livery on Harrison Dengate's car. He's gone for the retro Chickadee Commodore livery, as per the one that was run by Alan Dryce and Graham Bailey en route to their Bathurst 1000 victory back in 1986.
You know your stuff, don't you? All your paint jobs and your history. I imagine that Lockie is sat there sometimes with a book the size of a small person, just filled with facts and stats.
And the person who wrote that book, or those particular books, would be one Aaron Noonan, who has spent even more time than me poring over results and statistics and numbers.
It's a mark of a good commentator. Know your stats and spend more time looking up stats than commentating, I dare say, sometimes, Lockie.
Always about being well prepared, that's for sure, as we watch Callum Pratt coming down at the main straight. So at the moment it's Luke Pink on top, 1 minute 29.3, so he's on target for back-to-back pole positions. Corey Shepherd second by 0.1 of a second, then it's Stephen Sabellis. Back to Harrison Dengate, Erin Oliver, Dylan DeBono, Harrison Sellers in at 7th position, Jack Childs, Will Newell, and Bo Russell rounding out the top 10 at this stage.
Just two drivers yet to set a time, Brodie Saunter and Peter Taylor. 34 cars have set times, 36 in total on the session. Callum Pratt is back in 16th at the moment, but he pops up very late, didn't he, in qualifying at Summit Point, Lockie, so we'll be keeping an eye on him to see if he finds a lead improvement similar to that. So there is Brodie Saunter, putting in his first time of the day, hopefully. It's an outlap for him, so it won't quite count. He'll knock about 20 seconds off that when he gets a full lap in, as he locks it up down at turn 1. Bo Russell, a 130.734, currently 12th, and will stay 12th after that lap. A lot of drivers locking up the tyres around this racetrack. Very easy to do with these cars. A lot of front bias, and those front rights pinch very quickly.
And especially having just jumped out of the Legend car as well, the brake pressure and brake modulation required to get the car stopped is going to be very different compared to the Legend car. I just saw him there, I think it was Dylan DeBono running a Highway Patrol police car livery on his VF Commodore. There it is. Don't think they'll be handing out any speeding tickets in this race somehow.
Hope not.
Taylor Chin, the Linfield driver in Red Bull liveried Commodore.
That's not going to win favours over on the race control booth, is it?
No, not when it's an Erebus Motorsport competition. Actually, there's been a few Red Bull /888 liveries. Oh, Callum Pratt loses it out of turn number 10. Just loses the rear end as he went to get on the accelerator to exit that corner and ends up in the fence on the inside. Very easy to do in these cars because of the amount of horsepower that they produce.
Oh, how good do these cars sound, by the way?
They do sound awesome. Nothing like the exhaust note of supercars in full flight. iRacing have done a fantastic job of replicating the exhaust note and making it sound just like it does in real life. But not sure about you, Ryan, but I can't wait for the real life supercars to be back on the racetrack and to be able to hear their exhaust note in the flesh.
Oh, well, you know, you'll have that opportunity, I won't. I think all the ones in me are not going to quite make the schedule, unfortunately, as...
I don't even know if they're letting media people into Sydney Motorsport Park. I'm not sure that we're classified as essential personnel.
Supercars media, yes. Depends if your category is going to make the...
Well, they're not running, but they've already announced that for the Sydney Motorsport Park Supercars round, they're not going to be running any support categories.
So surely it will come back to normal. Right now, sim racing is biting our appetite for now. And Lockhart Brownlee flicks out of the final corner there. That's not going to do well to his lap. Luke Pink, can he find a late improvement like he did in race 1 to extend his margin? He does. It's now 0.2 of a second, the gap between your top two. Corey Shepherd sat in second, 0.6 back to third. And Erin Oliver back in 7th. Will not improve on his lap.
Well, Luke Pink certainly demonstrating to us so far, isn't he, why he was the overall winner of this competition for the 13 to the 15-year-old age group, because he's taken pole position fairly comprehensively for both of the different races that we've had. All he needs to do now is convert it to a race win, and he'll complete the clean sweep. Here's your starting grid for the supercars at Okayama. Luke Pink on pole, ahead of Corey Shepherd. Then we go back to Stephen Simelis, Harrison Dengate, Hugh Barter and Dylan DeBono. Erin Oliver out of position 7 back to Jack Childs, Harrison Sellers and Will Newell completing the top 10.
Just outside of that top 10 will be Michael Yip and Bo Russell. Corey McFarlane and Marcus Kajak on row number 7. Textar McCoy and Bailey Frid on the 8th row of the grid ahead of Ben Holiday, Callum Pratt, Max Christensen and Hayden Sell.
Alex Garden will line up out of position 21 ahead of Jason Furness. Callan Chin in 23rd position. Rafe Giovini, who wasn't actually in the previous session, out of position 24, back to Lachlan Murphy, Troy Brown, Ryan Mueller, Peter Taylor, Max Havert and Lockhart Brownlee completing the top 30. And completing the field, we've got Brett Cooper ahead of Slade Orsman, Luke Angeli, Harrison Mitchell, Kay Ardley, Brody Sonta, and once again we've got the Erebus Motorsport crew headed by Anton De Pasquale, looking after our race control and driving standards.
Getting set for a start then here at Okayama for the last race of the 13 to 15-year-old competition. The first ever Erebus Junior Academy eSports competition.
So Luke Pink starting on position number 1. It will be the outside of the circuit as they head down into turn 1, but it is on the racing line where there's a bit more grip, and he does start slightly ahead of the second place car on the grid. So Luke Pink, can he get a good start? Supercars can be a bit tricky to launch. Not too far away from a race start here as the young guns prepare to do battle in a fleet of VF Holden Commodore supercars at the technical Okayama circuit in Japan. Revs are rising, set for a start. Few backfiring exhausts as the anticipation builds. Lights out and away we go. Excellent start from Luke Pig. Jumps ahead of Corey Shepherd on the run down into turn one, but we've already got contact.
He was turned around in front of the field and they're still wrecking in turn number one. That's a big shot to kick things off for the junior competition, and I'll tell you what, they are still crashing. That is a horrendous start to the race. We'll have to get a replay of that. It was turned around on the entry to turn one. That same car just speared the fence there, I do believe. Stephen Tesmelis, he was turned as he jumped on the brakes, and once he hit that grass, he had no way to control it.
Stephen Tesmelis was involved. Harrison Dengate was involved. Erin Oliver got belted from pillar to post. I think he got turned around once, and then as he tried to rejoin the racetrack, he got turned around a second time. Let's check out the replay and let's try and unravel exactly what went wrong down there at turn one.
You could just see on that angle Tesmelis on the left-hand side of the screen getting rotated in front of the field, and then the domino effect that came about as a result of that caused a lot more carnage. And then as he tried to gather it back up, he got turned again, and again, no fault of his own. I don't believe either was his fault. If we can get another angle of the first contact of a turn one, we'll confirm that, but either way, that is a rough start for a lot of drivers.
It sure is, and we mentioned that Anton De Pasquale in race control had a fairly quiet time in the legend cars, but he's going to be a lot busier now. Don't know exactly how he's going to go with adjudicating on that, because there's about probably a dozen or more separate incidents to be investigated. But Luke Pig, he has bolted away at the front of the field. Hugh Barter in second position, just holding out Dylan DeBono in the highway patrol car, and Corey Shepherd in third. How about Ben Holiday, youngest driver in the field, up into fifth position? Great performance from him so far.
Indeed, a lot of drivers have gained a lot of spots after picking their way through that on the opening lap. Ben Holiday's up 12, Textar McCoy's up 9, Callum Pratt's up 10, Cullen Chin is up 14, and Hayden Snell up 10. What about Brody Sonta up 25 spots on the opening lap?
Not bad, and it just goes to show, doesn't it, that sometimes it's just about keeping your nose clean, being able to read the play on the racetrack and being able to know which way you need to go to avoid getting caught up in any damage. And Brody Sonta has obviously been able to read things very well there. Here's the contest for positions 4 and 5 between Dylan DeBono and Corey Shepherd. Normally we see highway patrol cars doing the chasing, but in this case, Dylan DeBono is the one being pursued.
Behind them, there's a very close battle, even closer still, between Textar McCoy and Harrison Sellers. There was actually contact down at turn 1 into the quarter panel of McCoy, turned a little bit loose. He held onto it, but Sellers has got a lot of pace, despite missing that front bumper. Bonnet and Callum Pratt behind them lurking as well. So here's the move up the inside for Sellers. He pulls it up nicely, gets it turned in as well, and launches off the corner. Executed that extremely well. But now down the straight, he's going to be under a bit of pressure here, Lockie, because the slipstream now favours McCoy as he pulls to the outside.
But he will be on the wrong side of the road when they get into the big braking zone at turn number 5, which is the hairpin. You're coming off the longest straight down into one of the slowest corners on the racetrack. And a very, very sideways moment there from Sellers to just manage to get it pulled up for the right-hander.
Oh no, Pratt, he missed the brakes. He got into the back of McCoy, shoved him wide, and McCoy gives him a return serve, which turns him to the grass and around for Callum Pratt, and rejoined straight into the path of Kalen Chin.
That was all a bit ugly there, wasn't it? Through that very slow complex of corners at turns 8 and 9. We'll have a look at the replay of that one. So it was Pratt who made the initial mistake, getting into the back of Textar McCoy. Textar McCoy not very happy with that one, decided to return serve at turn 9. And then as Callum Pratt accelerated to try and get going again, unfortunately he came straight back onto the racing line and into the path of that 888 car which collected him. I'll tell you what, Callum Pratt came for a long way back here, heading into turn 8. I don't think that was on there, but then Textar McCoy probably, yeah, I mean, that wasn't on either. Just a couple of feisty young drivers demonstrating their enthusiasm, I think is what we put that down to. Quite a few cars that are sporting a fair bit of panel damage at the moment as well. There's cars that have got bonnets and boots and rear wings all missing.
I think probably over half the field was caught up in that calamity down at turn 1 and 2 and 3 that kept on going for. And that's why we're seeing so much damage out there in after just 6 minutes of racing here at Okayama. Luke Pink, though, he was the only car to be ahead of the drama up at the first corner, and he's got a margin of 2 seconds now as a result, as he begins what should be 3 laps to go out there at the front of the field.
And unsurprisingly, Luke Pink has recorded the fastest lap of the race as well. Minute 29.2, which is half a second quicker than what anybody else has been able to record. Max Christensen defending from Will Newell at the moment. Contest positions 14 and 15. We know that Will Newell is fairly fast, but he was one of the drivers caught up in that pandemonium on the opening lap. And he gets down the inside to gain a position at turn 1.
Look at the damage to his car, the front right and the rear end really bent up. And the chasing car, Max Christensen, not much better off either. They're hurting their pace a little bit, but they're equally damaged, so they remain even. A replay on screen for an incident with Alex Gardner hit from the rear end, fired off into the fence, the concrete wall on the left-hand side. And
he got served.
Yeah.
Battle continues for positions 3 and 4 between Dylan DeBono and Corey Shepherd. These drivers are fighting over a spot on the podium, which does equal a prize thanks to Erebus Motorsport.
Winner, $250 Pettis voucher. Second place to receive a stimulator session with an Erebus drivers. Look behind, getting chased across the track. Then Holiday trying to fend off 5th place, but on the brakes through the middle, Harrison Sellers cleans him up. From the lapped car there is Luke Angeli on the inside of the track now, and just keeps out of the way of Holiday, who's trying to fight back on Sellers.
All's to play for coming into the final 2 minutes. And again, you've got a few cars that were involved in that incident on the first lap who were out of position and who were trying to fight their way back up through the field. So Sellers on a bit of a charge. We saw him get past Textar McCoy a couple of laps ago. He's now moved up into the top 5, getting ahead of Ben Holiday as well. Oh, down the inside. No, that was Ben Holiday trying to recapture the position under brakes at turn 5. Couldn't get it stopped. And makes contact there with Sellers, and both of those cars going tumbling off the racetrack and down the order.
Those rears, once they pinch, there's no getting them back a lot of the time. And unfortunately, Sellers was a very innocent victim in that, caught on the outside, blindsided by that spinning car. Up the inside, almost tagged him. It was almost a repeat of McCoy and Pratt, but just kept it off the back of them.
They didn't actually lose too many positions. They fell back behind Textar McCoy and Harrison Dengate. They're currently sitting in positions 7 and 8. We are on the final lap now. And no doubt Harrison Sellers will try and get that spot back from Ben Holiday. Textar McCoy and Harrison Dengate getting into it through turns 2 and 3. Cars are right on the limit of adhesion there, so it's not a spot where you really want to be making contacts. That could have had very ugly consequences for both of those drivers, but thankfully they were managed to keep it on the black stuff. Just.
They're trying to get by Luke Angeli here. Everyone locks the brake down into the hairpin. Angeli runs off the racetrack. That allows McCoy and Dengate to get on by with relative ease. And they'll resume their battle with just a sector left to go on the racetrack for the final race for these drivers, the 13 to 15-year-olds here in the Erebus Junior eSports competition.
What a performance it's been from this young driver from the Gold Coast, though. 15-year-old Luke Pink, victorious in the Legend cars, victorious in the Supercars, 2 pole positions and 2 race victories. There's no question that he is a deserving competition winner, and no doubt he will very much look forward to that karting training session that he gets with David, Sarah and the crew.
Dengate loses out to McCoy, who takes home the final spot up inside of the top 5. Dengate 6th, Holiday 7th, ahead of Sellers and 8th after their paddles and contact they had throughout the race.
So Luke Pink, therefore, gets another $250 voucher thanks to Petters, so he's now got $500 worth of Petters suspension vouchers to spend. Second place in that race will pick up a 2-hour simulator session with an Erebus Motorsport driver. And once again, our third place driver, Corey Shepherd, will score an Erebus Motorsport merchandise pack. So the simulator session going the way of Dylan DeBono. We'll run through the rest of the order. Hugh Barter in position 4. Textar McCoy in 5th position ahead of Harrison Dengate. Back to Ben Holiday, Harrison Sellers, Hayden Sell, and then Brody Sonta completing the top 10.
Just behind them was Brett Cooper, Kalen Chin in 12th. Ryan Mueller in 13th, Marcus Kajak, 14th. Max Christensen, Callum Pratt, Jason Furness, Harrison Mitchell, Kai Ardley, Corey McFarlane to be a top 20.
Then it was Alex Gardner ahead of Will Newell. And we're getting back into the drivers who are involved in the opening lap damage. Lachlan Murphy in position 23, back to Jack Childs, Aaron Oliver, Bailey Frieden, Lockhart Brownlee, Troy Brown, Rafa Giavoni, and then Slade Osmond completing the top 30.
Peter Taylor, Bo Russell, Luke Angeli, Max Havett, Michael Yippin, Steven Tesmelis rounded out your field. The 13 to 15-year-olds wrap it up for this afternoon, but we've still got one more race to come.
Indeed we do. So the final race on our program for this afternoon will be the 16 to the 18-year-olds doing battle in supercars here at Okayama. A break here on SimSpeed TV. Back with our final race very soon.
Yeah, we're here at Todd Road in basically the heart of Melbourne at the go-kart track, and we're here to facilitate the Erebus Academy. It's a fantastic program Erebus has set up to encourage young kids into motorsport and show them how to go about it and to look up to myself and Anton.
We are here to endorse our Erebus Academy with Dave, Sarah and all the young kids here. We have a few karts, having a bit of fun and sort of trying to give a little bit of advice to the young kids and give them a bit of direction in motorsport.
Tell us a few of the tips the drivers gave you.
Try to be really smooth and get on the gas when you feel like you can get on the gas.
And did you do that?
Yeah, tried my best.
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the Erebus Academy Junior eSports competition presented by some fantastic sponsors, including Penrite, Petters Suspension and Brakes, Sarah Driver Development, Norwell Motorplex, Just Send It, iRacing Series, and of course you are watching it right here on the SimSpeed TV network. Ryan Jones and Lockie Mansell in the commentary box talking you through all of the action. We've got one race to go. We've had 16 to the 18-year-old drivers battling it out in holding VF Commodore V8 supercars at the Okayama circuit in Japan.
And then we're looking to put on a really good show to finish off our afternoon here on iRacing. And for these drivers, they're looking to impress some pretty important people watching on. The man heading up the Erebus Academy and Anson De Pasquale, everyone from Erebus, I'm sure, tuning in as well. It's a decent spot to get your name known, but a lot of these drivers in this 16 to 18-year-old category we've seen every week in the very laid-back Just Send It series, where despite its nature, we still see the incredibly quick people prevail. Guys like Zaxton Susan, Harlow, Cody Bircher, Cooper Webster, who's unfortunately not racing but took out the times trials, Job Stewart as well, Bailey Sweeney. So, a lot of these names we recognise from Just Send It.
Probably worth noting as well that there are drivers within this series who do also have experience competing in the V8 Supercars Online Premier Series, or V8 Scops as it's described, which is the top tier of supercars competition in Australia. So, although V8 Scops obviously uses the newer model ZB Commodores and Ford Mustangs, obviously the driving characteristics and the mechanical specifications are still very similar to these old model cars. So the drivers who have experience in that series, which includes Blake Purdy, I think they will have a bit of an advantage heading into this race.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. They spent a lot of time using this car, the older version, up until about 6 months ago when the newer versions were introduced, so they haven't been out of these for that long, to be honest with you. Brady Carr in second there, yeah. Half a second off at the moment.
And he's running the VIP Pet Foods Techno Auto Sports livery as run by Shane Van Gisbergen in the Supercars Championship in 2014. Very unlucky not to win Bathurst that year, as I'm sure you'll remember, Ryan.
Indeed. I remember it for other reasons, though, that make me very sad, too. There was a lot of heartbreak that day for a lot of drivers and teams and supporters, actually.
Indeed there was. And we're just watching there Jackson Suzlin Harlow, who's behind the wheel with the Altus eSports Commodore. Jack Boyd on the screen at the moment, the Aussie racing car driver from Adelaide. Oh, Cody Bircher, this is in qualifying. You don't want to be making contact with other cars in a qualifying session. He's running a Fire Brigade livery on his car as off the road goes Brady Carr in the Techno Auto Sports car. Jack Boyd currently fastest in the session ahead of Blake Purdy and Cody Bircher, but we've still got just under 6 minutes remaining in the session.
A second covering your top 20 at the moment. Still some big names down the order. Yet to put in a good lap on warm tyres. Of course, running a new tyre model version 7. It's been introduced to iRacing over the last few months and almost a year, which makes the cold tyres extremely slippery and slow. Got to really work up the temperature in the carcass of that tyre, and then you can pump in a really fast lap. Zane Hills, has he done that? Back in 26 at the moment. As Blake Purdy improves on his lap at the top of the timesheet. It's at 130.192 for him. That'll put him up into 14th place. As Miles Burgess in 5th. Doesn't find an improvement.
Job Stewart buried down the order at the moment, but moves up. He's not buried down the order anymore. He's provisionally on the second row of the grid, 0.065 of a second behind Blake Purdy, and Jackson Suzlin Harlow on a flyer at the moment as well. He's behind the wheel of the Altus eSports Commodore. He's been one of the front-running drivers within the Just Send It series. Comes comes out at the last corner, turn 11, accelerates down to the finish line. What's the time like for Jackson Suzel and Harlow? The answer to that question is that it's good enough to move him up to position number 1, a minute 29.0, 0.3 of a second quicker than Blake Purdy.
Pretty fast. Reece Cohen, what can he do? Back in 35th at the moment. Finds an improvement that puts him up into 12th place, so big gains for him on that lap. And Cooper Johnstone currently sitting in 7th, which is about where he was racing during race 1 in the Legend car as well. Won't improve on his lap, unfortunately.
Just reiterating as well that Cooper Webster, who was the overall winner of the competition based on the cumulative lap times recorded in the pre-qualifying sessions for the Legend cars and the Supercars, unfortunately not with us this afternoon due to some work commitments, but we know that Cooper Webster is one of the up-and-coming sim racing and real-life motorsport competitors, and he will no doubt benefit very much from that driver coaching session at Norwell, as we see Sean Wright in the Jack Daniels livery to Commodore coming across the line. Goes into position number 30 with that lap.
Don't forget, if you're a fan of this iRacing stuff, as you were at know, Lockie, here on SimSpeed TV, we do a lot of it. And as we look to hopefully extend our partnership with Erebus into future Academy events teased by Paul earlier on in the broadcast, we've got some coming up in the not-too-distant future, including at 5:45 this evening, the Indy 500 by the Majors Series on the iRacing eSports network, covered by us. So make sure you tune into that if you want to see some more action today.
8 p.m. tonight as well, we'll be going racing for the Circuit XL A-Series, which utilises TCR cars. They're off to the Monza circuit in Italy for a pair of 30-minute races tonight.
You're covering that.
I am covering that. Myself and David Hayes will be behind the microphone for that one. And you'll be sick of my voice by the end of the weekend, because then tomorrow night we've got the Carbon Gaming GT3 A-Series, which will be a 90-minute endurance race from Phillip Island, Bo Albert, and yours truly behind the microphone for that one. And that's an event and a series that attracts a lot of real-life supercar drivers, including Shane Van Gisbergen and Chaz Bostert, Todd Hazelwood, Macaulay Jones, and plenty of other real-life superstars that you'll get to see in that series as well. So plenty of racing to watch on the SimSpeed network, and if you want a full rundown of our recommended events for you to tune into over the next 7 days, head to simracingoz.com, Australia's first dedicated sim racing news website, where this morning I published my editor's picks of the races to watch over the course of the next week.
A lot of these drivers have been the 2K Cup coverage as well tomorrow night, which, now that I think about it, isn't on SimSpeed TV, so ignore that. But it's on the Global Sim Racing channel. SimSpeed and GSRC, both very good friends with each other. And yeah, a lot of the field, both 13 to 15, 16 and 18-year-olds competing in that series with, Van Gisbergen, Liam Lawson as well. Some big-name drivers rounding out the season there. But right now, they're on a stage where they can impress some big people. And they're trying their best, and Harlow has a margin still of 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, very impressive lap time from Jackson Suzel and Harlow, minute 28.9. And the best time, just to give you a bit of a reference point. So in the pre-qualifying, both Jackson Suzel and Harlow and Cooper Webster got down to minute 28.6 lap time. So they're still a few tenths away from what they achieved in pre-qualifying. Now, we saw in the Legend cars that Job Stewart snatched pole at the death. Can he do it again? I reckon he might have actually got across the line there just before the checkered flag flew. So he'll get another crack at it here, Job Stewart. But does he have enough life left in his tyres to have another run for it? Unfortunately, I think there are a couple of cars that have spun off the circuit just ahead. And in fact, Blake Purdy's had a moment there coming down to the start-finish line where he's potentially had to avoid a stranded car as well. So a few drivers being a bit compromised here on their final runs as a result of some other drivers spinning or going off the racetrack in front of them.
Zane Hills trying to complete his lap. A 130 flat. Is it enough for an improvement? No, it's not. Yes, it is. He goes up to 18th place to be happy with that. Jaden Wanzik just in front of him at the moment. Puts in a 29.7, goes to 9th. That's a great late improvement from him. A lot of drivers finding something late on here. Ruben Goodall, 14th. Looks like a good lap. It's a 29.825. So that should put him. No, invalidated lap, unfortunately. Caught an off track somewhere out there on the circuit. And his lap does not count.
Here comes Brady Carr, currently scored in 22nd position. And does not improve, stays in position number 22. Callum Watson 8th. Here comes Joe Stewart across the line to finish off his lap. Improved his time, but not his position. Goes to within 2/10 of a second of Jackson Suzlin Harlow. So it'll be Suzlin Harlow who will be on pole for the supercars ahead of Joe Stewart. And our Legend Cars race winner, Blake Purdy, starting out of grid position 3. Jack Boyd in position 4, ahead of Cody Bircher. That's quality lineup there in the top 5. Matt McCutcheon in 6th, Thomas Schwerkolt 7th. And then it's Callum Watson ahead of Jaden Wanzek, Cooper Johnston completing the top 10.
Miles Burgess starting from 11th place. Sorry, I just heard Brody Kostecki, who's jumped in, and he's obviously got some experience with some of these drivers in iRacing and made a interesting remark about Jackson Susan Harlow at turn 1. Billy Fraser from 12th, Mitchinson and Goodall 13th and 14th, Cohen and Harvey off row 8, Jen Dixon and Zane Hills off row 9, Aidan Brand and Bailey Sweeney starting up 19th and 20th.
We go back to Sean Wright in 21st position, Brady Carr next in 22nd, ahead of Joel Johnson, Damon Harper, Rafe McCarthy, and Zach Calvert in 26th, Jackson Johnston in 27th position, Kyle Evans in 28th, Tyson Broad and Jackson Griffith rounding out the top 30.
Final 6 cars, or 5 cars on the grid, Mario Vartanian, Sam Christensen, Bradley Vaughan, Tanya Van Arbleys, and Lachlan Maneef. Let's hope
Venables, eh? I think it's Venables there, Ryan.
Venables, yeah.
Lachlan Maneef, though, a bit further back than where you would have expected him to be. He's going to have his work cut out starting at the rear of the field.
Here we go. Oh, he's bogged it. He's bogged it down. He's gone nowhere, Lockie.
So 2 bad starts in a row for Jackson Suzlin and Harlow. That hands the advantage to Job Stewart as they head into turn number 1. And it looks like they've managed to make it through there with far fewer incidents than what we saw from the younger age group, thankfully. So the mass carnage, not so much of a thing in this race, although we do have a couple of cars running wide through turns 2 and 3 they head. Still looking fairly tidy, but Jackson Suzlin Harlow gets into the back of Jaden Wanzek and turns him around at turn 4. So a bit of drama there.
Reece Cohen as well, and Jaden Dixon spin in unison out of the exit of that corner. You can see it just in the background as big smoke signals are sent up. So they've both gone around. Reshman's one of them. But look at the chaos for about 30th place. They're 3 by 3 into the corner.
Up at turn number 5, it's going to be interesting, and Sam Christensen in the Penrite's sponsored car gets turned into a very awkward position there. Really good reflexes from a lot of the drivers to miss colliding with that car, thankfully, but we've got another spinner. That's at turn number 8.
Oh, wow. Miles Burgess with the flick spin of nightmares on the outside of the corner where everyone's driving along. Take a look at this. This was wild stuff. He spun it on the outside of one of the Altus cars there. And then things all good, and he lights it up and spins it. Look at that. How did no one hit him?
A lot of damage to the back of that car, and he's headed back to the pits as well. Job Stewart, your race leader, ahead of Blake Purdy, the 2 cars that we saw battling it out for the win in the previous race in the Legend cars. Jack Boyd sitting in position 3, at the moment. He's in that bright pit car ahead of Cody Bircher, who sits fourth, ahead of the Kiwi Matt McCutcheon in fifth, Thomas Schwerkolt in sixth, and Jackson Suzlin-Harlow, who has not been able to execute his starts this afternoon, all the way down in seventh position.
He's really struggled with that, hasn't he?
He has, and he'll be kicking himself for that poor start because that's cost him a lot of track position.
He's just got back up into sixth place now, but he's got about a second or so up to next car. It's still Thomas Schwerkolt there, unfortunately, has run into a drama down to the hairpin. He's lost it by himself. Rear of the car is over-rotated on entry. It's gone around at him. And such an awkward spot. He got collected by one of the Penrite liveried machines. I mean, it's a very tough spot to try and sort out, and eventually does the smart thing, I think, and decides to tow back to pit lane.
Riding on board with Cody Bircher, who's up behind Jack Boyd at the moment. The battle for what will be a podium position and a prize, thanks to Erebus Motorsport. Cody Birch running a Fire Brigade livery on his Commodore. Jackson Suzlin-Harlow back there in sixth position. At least has a bit of clear track now, so he'll be able to punch out some fast lap times and start hunting down the cars ahead. But because these races are so short, Ryan, only 10 minutes, if you do have some dramas in the early stages, it doesn't give you a lot of recovery time.
You're exactly right. That's why qualifying is so crucial, and executing the start from a good qualifying just as important, something JSH not been able to do, most notably in the second race tonight, unfortunately. This is a great battle for third place, though. Second place, sorry, behind Purdy, Boyd, and Bircher. McCutcheon just off the back as well. Job Stewart's open out to a 2-second margin ahead of these guys.
This is helping Job Stewart because Purdy, Boyd, and Bircher are all battling pretty intensely with one another. They'll start to slow each other down a bit while they're squabbling for position. Best lap of the race has been set by Job Stewart, 1 minute 29.1. Jack Boyd under real pressure at the moment from Cody Bircher. Main overtaking opportunities on this circuit. Turn number 5 is probably the primary one. If you can get a good run onto the back straight, tuck into the slipstream of the car ahead and then go for the late braking manoeuvre into the hairpin. Can go wrong pretty easily there as well if you misjudge it.
They're sort of stuck in a spot now where none of these guys is close enough to make a move. There's drama further back. That's going to be a replay for us up here. Luke Mitchinson. Drama in front. He tries to avoid the outside of 3 wide. That's not going to be good news for him. And he had nowhere to go and served in the defence there along with Bradley Vaughan.
Yeah, 3 wide into turn 2 is never going to end unless you have some seriously good cooperation between all 3 parties involved, which in that case I'm sad to say there wasn't.
Look at this, 12th place. Christensen locking it up everywhere as Damon Harper applies the heat to that rear bumper, shows the nose, not late enough on the brakes, but it puts Christensen off. He locks it up again, sending smoke signals from the front of that car.
Christensen's car looks like it's got some flat spots on those tyres because he's locking the brakes at pretty much every corner. They're up to Harper to try and force him into making a mistake in order to set up the overtaking opportunity.
Harper made a mistake actually and lost a bit of time and all that. Good train behind him as well.
There's Tane Venables, who's come up from near the back of the grid to be running inside the top 15. So good performance from Tane.
Yes, Venables, not Venables.
A lot of these cars do seem quite prone to locking brakes, don't they? And I think that's because we've got a lot of off-cab corners where the inside front tyre gets unloaded. Blake Purdy still in second position, resisting attacks from Jack Boyd and Cody Bircher. Job Stewart continues to maintain the margin at 2.3 seconds.
Just 2 laps to go now for these drivers as it winds down to its conclusion, and Joe Stewart looks steady out front, doesn't he, Lockie? 2.5 seconds back to the field.
Jackson Suzel and Harlow's caught up to Matt McCutcheon. And Harlow showing a good turn of speed at the moment, as McCutcheon makes a mistake at turn 4. Matt can just get back to the inside of the circuit just in time to clip the apex. But Jackson, Suzel and Harlow will be sensing a vulnerability as a result of McCutcheon making that mistake. Harlow looks to the inside, a late move at turn number 5, and barges his way down the inside. If there's a gap, go for it. If there's half a gap, make it into a full-size gap. I think that was the mentality that Jackson, Suzel and Harlow went for there.
Was there contact or not? Because I think he might have done that cleanly, and if he does, if he did, that's remarkable. And can't understate McCutcheon's cooperation in this as well. From the outside to the inside, gets up, slight bit of contact, but still, to get up there and pull it up is astounding.
It was a bit of a Daniel Ricciardo style move in the sense that he was on the outside and then he very quickly dives back to the inside just as they headed into the braking zone. I don't think McCutcheon would have been expecting that one.
Glad it didn't end like Baku.
Yeah, I'm glad that manoeuvre ended more like the one that he made on Sebastian Vettel at Monza.
I was thinking Bottas at Shanghai.
Or that one, yep.
There's a few to choose from.
Yeah, not the one with Verstappen at Baku, that's for sure.
Meanwhile, it's the final lap for Joe Stewart.
It is. We get through these races very quickly, don't we? I think that in just centre in our regular Tuesday night races, of course, we're accustomed to them going for a bit longer because our typical race format is 40-minute races with pit stops, but it's been very, very quick sprint races tonight. Still a total of 40 minutes of racing, of course, but spread out over 4 different races of 10 minutes each. And Job Stewart is well and truly on target to pick up a race victory in this one. Picked up a podium finish in the Legend car as well. So in addition to the simulated coaching session that he's got coming his way, Job Stewart's also going to pick up $250 thanks to Petter's suspension as he takes out the supercar race for the 16 to the 18-year-old age group for the Erebus Academy Junior Driver eSports competition. Second place goes the way of Blake Purdy. Third place will fall to Jack Boyd, and they each pick up, respectively, a simulated driver coaching session and an Erebus merchandise pack. So congratulations to our top 3 finishers. Here's confirmation of your final results. Job Stewart, your winner, ahead of Blake Purdy. Jack Boyd in 3rd position, ahead of Cody Birch. Jackson, Suzel and Harlow recovering to 5th position after a very sluggish start. Matt McCutcheon in 6th. Then it was Callum Watson, Ruben Goodall, Cooper Johnston and Emerson Harvey leading the top 10.
Coming home in 11th place was Zane Hills. Sam Christensen just behind him in 12th had a Damon Harper, Jackson Johnson and Bailey Sweeney. Tane Venables, Tyson Broad, Sean Wright, Brady Carr, Mario Vartanian, your top 20 drivers this afternoon.
Then it was Billy Fraser ahead of Reece Cohen, Jackson Griffith back to Rafe McCarthy, Joel Johnson, Aidan Brand, Bradley Vaughan, Luke Mitchelson, Zach Calvert and Miles Burgess in 30th position.
Last 5 drivers: Kyle Evans, Jaden Dixon, Thomas Schwerkolt, Jaden Wanzak, Lachlan Manif, rounding out your field for the final race of the afternoon.
And the celebrations are now very much on in earnest, as the drivers send smoke signals right around the Suzuka circuit in their Commodore supercars. So there we go. That completes all of the action for the inaugural Erebus Academy Junior eSports competition. Some very, very deserving talents that we've discovered over the last few days. And we very much enjoyed bringing you the racing phase of the competition to you here on SimSpeed TV. And we have our race winner for the supercars, Job Stewart, joining us here in the commentary box. Job, congratulations. I'll tell you what, it all opened up for you there at the race start.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Thanks, guys. Yeah, Jackson kind of ruined the start there, which, put me in a good position. And then the guys behind, I think, may have battled for a few laps, so I got a pretty big gap at the start.
When you're out in front leading like that, how hard is it to maintain concentration and make sure that you don't make any mistakes?
Yeah, it's pretty hard, especially at this track that's pretty skinny, and as soon as you touch the grass, you just spin around. So you have to keep 100% concentration and try and not touch the grass.
So you've picked up some pretty handy prizes over the last few days because you came third based on the cumulative times from the legend cars and the supercars. So third outright in the competition, but then you've picked up some pretty handy prizes in the races as well. You've got yourself a 2-hour simulator session with an Erebus Motorsport driver and a $250 voucher thanks to Petter's suspension. Which prize are you most looking forward to redeeming?
Yeah, the sim session's going to be pretty cool with the Erebus drivers. I'll probably learn a lot there. And the other prize is pretty cool. Petter's one's pretty cool.
Now, I went back through some stats the other day, Job, and I've worked out that you're actually the most capped driver in the Just Send It series since it started last year. You've got more race starts in the series than anybody else. What do you most enjoy about the Tuesday night Just Send It races?
Oh, it's pretty good because you can just jump on for a bit of fun with your mates. And yeah, every Tuesday we're all my mates and I and just looking forward to see what car and what track because it's always a great combination.
Job Stewart joining myself and Ryan Jones in the commentary box here on SimSpeed TV. You got any questions for Job, Ryan?
No.
Right. There we go.
I don't. Good job.
Yeah, really well done. I think probably the last question that I have for you, Job, is to what extent are you looking to use sim racing to make the progression into real life motorsport?
It's pretty. I'll use it as much as I can. It's pretty, pretty realistic. I think it'll help a lot, especially with a few tracks that are on here that I should go to in real life if racing still goes ahead. So it'll help a lot, I think.
Yeah, once racing does resume again, what plans do you have as far as your real life motorsport career goes?
Oh, well, I'm planning to race the Toyota 86 series this year. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah, that'll be good, and hopefully that series goes ahead, that's for sure. There he is, Job Stewart, our winner for the 16 to the 18-year-olds in the supercar here at the Okayama circuit.
Thanks, guys.
No worries, congratulations.
We've also got up here with us our winner from the 13 to 15-year-olds, both races. Luke Pink taking them out very comfortably. Good job.
Thanks, boys. How's it going?
Not bad. We enjoyed the show you guys put on for us, but for you, it was very comfortable in both races, but it must have been clenched a bit up into turn one of the second race.
Yeah, a bit sketchy there. Old mate came up flying up the inside. I feel a bit bad for Corey there.
Yeah, really unfortunate, but I suppose it was good for you, wasn't it? Opened up a pretty handy margin. For you, it's just about keeping your nose clean and keeping yourself with a nice buffer the guys behind. How hard is it to keep your focus knowing that you're leading the race?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult on the first lap when they're like right on you, pressuring you, especially that first race. Me and Tex had a good battle there. But no, once you get a little bit of a lead, you can't just put your head down and then just go for it. Try not to make a mistake.
In terms of your plans for real life, you've won the Australian Nationals, you've been to Italy. What are your plans heading forward? You're just 15 years old, so still plenty of time to move up into cars. But is that on the near radar or the future radar?
Hopefully the near radar. It just depends on money, I guess. You got to be, yeah, you can be good, but you got to have the money to support it, I guess.
Indeed, you do, and hopefully competitions like this will help aid people like you who need that little bit of a boost to get themselves up through the categories. Thank you for joining us up here in the booth. And is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or a thank you to for helping you get it done today?
Yeah, thanks, boys. Firstly, I'd like to thank Luxus Greats, honestly. They've helped me along the way, a lot of karting, even building the sim rig. Thanks for sponsorship, boys. And I'd like to thank Erebus, obviously, for this awesome series they put on. Petters, thanks for the gift cards and stuff. Norwell, awesome place. And Sarah Driver Development.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Go and celebrate your 2 race victories.
Thanks, boys.
And joining us in the commentary box now is another one of the drivers who's performed really, really well this afternoon. Got the victory in the Legend Car race and was also on the podium in the supercar. Blake Purdy, last time I spoke to you was when you won the miniature race car round at Winton. In real life, obviously, you haven't been able to race any sort of real race car since then, but how much have you been enjoying the sim racing in the meantime?
With me, Job and Jackson in the Legend car, and yeah, I was hoping to carry it through to the supercar race. So yeah, that went pretty well as well. So
Legend cars and the Aussie racing car that you drive in the miniature race cars, obviously, fundamentally, they're fairly similar with motorcycle engines and their handling characteristics. How much of the Legend car driving characteristics on the sim translate to the Aussie racing car in the real world?
I think you won't be able to get a simulator car to be just as good as a real life car, but I think that you can still have just as good as a race as you will in real life because you can still use you can still be smart and push and decide whether to make overtakes and stuff. So I think it's good for building racecraft on the sim.
You've obviously picked up some fairly cool prizes over today's couple of races, including a $250 gift voucher thanks to Petter's suspension and a coaching session in the Erebus Motorsport simulator as well. What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I'll be definitely looking forward to the Erebus simulator. I heard it has a bit of motion, so that'll be something new. But yeah, also thanks to Petters, that's really good price, so I'm happy with that.
Just finally, Blake, people that you'd like to thank for their contributions to your racing program in real life and on the sim?
I'd like to thank Nippies. They've helped me out so much through the years. And Pursuit Sim Racing, my real iRacing team, they've helped me as well. So yeah, thanks.
There we go. Blake Purdy, our winner in the Legend car tonight and also coming home on the podium in at the Supercars competition for the 16 to the 18-year-old age group as well.
And then we'll be pretty happy with the performances today, and a lot of drivers will walk away happy even without getting their hands on some of those prizes because it's a great experience for all those young drivers.
Yeah, and again, really, really well done to the Erebus Motorsport organisation. We caught up with Paul Thompson earlier on, who's the one who works away behind the scenes in putting this together as the head of the Erebus Motorsport commercial department. And a big thank you to the Erebus drivers, Anton De Pasquale, Will Brown and Brody Kostecki, who are very heavily involved in the sim racing side of things as well. Just Send It returns, of course, on Tuesday night. We go back to our regular race format with the 40-minute race. The car and the track combination will be announced on social media in the coming days. In the meantime, stay tuned to the SimSpeed TV network for some of the best Australian sim racing events. Thanks to everybody who's tuned in tonight. On behalf of Ryan Jones, Jay Kennedy, and the entire team here on the SimSpeed TV network, I'm Lachlan Mansell. See you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh, my God. Oh, big crash. Oh, my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?